My issue with Thomas Castellanos is he has not performed well or displayed the competitive temperament or mental toughness when things don't go his way. Right? No matter how many spectacular plays he makes, the quarterback position is about accuracy and decision making.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining us. Hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. And as usual, thank you for making Crain and Company a daily watch or listen. You guys are the best. The channel's on fire right now, and we only feel better about it moving forward. Without you, there is no us. But as usual, we're going to get you through the middle of the week. We have a fantastic guest, and we're going to talk some ACC football post-spring and give you our top 8 teams. We're not going to go through 17. We're going to give you our top 8, maybe talk about some on the periphery with our buddy. You can find him on ESPN, ACC Network, the UC Report, the UFL. He probably works for SpaceX in some capacity. We're not smart enough to understand. That's our buddy, Tom Luginbill. Luke, what's up, buddy?
Yes, sir.
What's up, baby?
Boys, good morning. Good to be back with you, man. I tell you what, we're not that far away from kicking off, are we?
I know. It feels like, we've turned that corner of the NBA is done, the NHL's done, the College World Series is done. Still got a long way to go in Major League Baseball, but the next big thing is college football, and we got to put the countdown clock in.
What's a pickleball tournament?
We got to. Nobody cares, David. I'm still hurting from the last time we played with our buddy Ryan. I do want to let everybody know, obviously, David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback to my left, Blaine Crain, former Western State Colorado wide receiver to my right, how we're doing this and how we've been doing this. So, Tom, we're going to unveil to you, we consolidated a list, so these aren't individual lists. It's one list. We came together, had to make some sacrifices here or there, and it's the top 8 teams. It's a power ranking, so it's not where we think they're going to finish. It has nothing to do with the schedule that they're going to play. These are who we think are the top 8 teams in the ACC moving forward. So I do, though, want to start and get your opinion as somebody who follows the conference as much as anybody else out there. We know that the SEC and the Big Ten, in whatever order you want to put them, are the top 2 dogs in college football. They're the 2 best conferences. I don't think anybody will argue that. Where is the ACC compared to the Big 12, in your opinion? Is the ACC ahead of the Big 12? Is the ACC behind the Big 12 as it stands today?
I would say it's slightly ahead. I think there's probably a debate to be had, for the Big 12 as well. To me, when it comes to examining the ACC, the Big 12 doesn't have a Clemson, right? I mean, that's I think the one thing that stands out to me, and the recruiting pool and the player pool for the ACC, because of the footprint, is for many teams stronger than, let's say it would be for the Big 12 by and large. I understand you have the state of Texas. There's no question about that. But a lot of teams in the Big 12 have to go into other people's backyards to put together their rosters. Now, I realize that high school football recruiting is becoming more and more diminished because the transfer portal is becoming such a big deal. So maybe an add-on question to that is, who's more attractive in the transfer portal market? Teams from the ACC or teams from the Big 12, depending on if you're the type of player that isn't just looking for the bag or isn't just looking for the highest dollar amount, but you're actually looking to join a team or a program that you think could make the college football playoff. And so I would give the ACC a slight edge right now.
Well, to your point about the transfer portal, it's not even about going in somebody else's backyard. Now it's just walking into their kitchen and opening the refrigerator the way it works nowadays. David, a juxtaposition that are actually a comparison that I find kind of interesting between the ACC and the Big 12 as opposed to the Big 10 and the SEC is I think there's some similarities in that the ACC, I think, is better at the top than the Big 12 is. But I think you can make an argument that the Big 12 is deeper from the first team to the last team than what the ACC is, similar to the argument that people say about the Big Ten is really, really good at the top, but the SEC is deeper.
I think you're right, and I think I know this conversation is particularly about football, but in college basketball as well. Like if you start broadening it out to more sports, I think you look at the Big 12, what they bring to the table in basketball now certainly is like top to bottom loaded. But do you want to like break down what we have at the top here?
Yeah, let's go. Let's start at one.
Because my question to Tom and what I really want to pick your brain on kind of deals with this top heaviness of the ACC like Jake is talking about. So we might as well unveil.
It's a good segue.
Okay, really so we have Clemson at number 1, and that kind of is a question for me is like, how is Florida State and Miami, two of the most dominant college football programs in the country when I was growing up, forget the conference, how have they allowed Clemson to really be the gold standard in this conference?
Well, for my money, I think it goes back to when Dan Radakovich became the athletic director at Clemson. And as an institution, going back, I would say probably within the first 1 to 2 years of Dabo Swinney's tenure, that institution made a cohesive decision that athletics, primarily football, was going to drive the bus of the university. Not just athletics, meaning that they were going to push all their chips to the table and they were going to say unapologetically, we are investing in our greatest revenue producer. And if you don't like it, there's the door. Because if you look across the landscape of college football, Alabama did that. Ohio State's done that. Texas has done that. You look at the premier programs, they all essentially said, if we invest in this, everything else benefits, right? The commerce and the community benefits. The applications for enrollment go way up. The institutional standards to actually get into Clemson now are vastly more stringent than they were then, because now everybody wants to be a part of it. That new wing that's being built on the library, well, why is that happening? That new faculty building, well, why is that happening? It's because the football side of things has driven the bus from a financial resource standpoint, and it worked. And I think they're a great example of how far ahead they got beyond Miami and beyond Florida State's willingness to do that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. And, they looked at what Alabama had done as a pro. The thing about Alabama that people don't realize when Nick Saban first took that job, if Nick Saban felt like there was something that the program had to do or had to have, nobody was going to say no if they could prove a direct correlation to winning and losing, right?
Yeah.
Nobody pushed back to that. I don't think we're going to invest in that, or I don't think we're going to do that. They did it. If they wanted to expand the weight room, they weren't going through a committee for 12 to 15 months and have everybody, give their 2 cents about it. No, the next week a hammer was hitting the wall. Yeah. Right? That's the difference. And I think that's what has separated Clemson over the last 15 years from others maybe not being as willing to make that leap.
Well, Clemson really went all in. It's exactly right. Yeah. Blaine, over to you. Clemson, this was the easiest decision we've had to make when we're doing any of these rankings. You look, Clemson has the most returning production, I think, in the country, which includes Cade Klubnik, which includes being really good on both sides of the ball. I know the defense got ran through at the end of last year, but I'm telling you, in aggregate, Clemson is going to be really, really good up front. I like what they have in the back end on defense. But I think the difference, Blaine, for Clemson is all we did for the last couple of years when people would ask us, why is Clemson not like they used to be? It's that we didn't see the Nuke Hopkins. We didn't see the Justin Rosses on the outside. We didn't see the Sammy Watkins. But now this young wide receiver core that they brought in, and they got baptized against Georgia. It's amazing how much easier it is throughout the year when you don't start against Georgia. That's been the difference. I think the divide with Clemson being at the top of this conference is bigger than any team in the preseason or post-spring in any of the Power Four conferences.
Well, I think skill position is going to be huge, obviously, coming back this year. But if you want to beat the best, if you want to play with the best, that comes down to what, in my opinion? It's the line of scrimmage. Yeah. It's a line of scrimmage. And right now, I think Clemson can match up with almost any team in the country when it comes to that front seven on the other side of the ball. Secondary is going to be extremely good. Cade Klubnik, we can all sit here and talk about him. We can talk about Clemson. But, hey, Tom, to be honest with you, I'm more interested in this Miami team. And that's who we have coming in at number two right now. And everybody wants to talk about Carson Beck this, Carson Beck that. I'm not worried about quarterback play at Miami. I'm not. I think Carson Beck's going to be fine. But what I'm excited about, too, we talk about a line of scrimmage. Miami's going to be pretty damn good on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. I want to get your opinion right now on the production they're bringing back on defense. And you think, is it good enough for them to beat a Clemson and win the ACC championship?
Yeah, I think so. I agree with your guys' assessments on Clemson and Miami up front on both sides of the ball. That's where the game is won and lost. Miami on defense to me is very similar to Clemson on defense last year. Really good players, flawed scheme. Mm-hmm. And I think with new leadership on both sides of the ball from a coaching perspective, they're going to play smarter football. They're going to play more sound football. And that will allow, I think, those players to maximize their traits. The thing with Miami that you have to ask yourself, and I think it's fair and it's real, and I think that Mario Cristobal has done a great job, but when you really break them down and look at them last year, if you took Cam Ward off of that team, they might be a 6-win team.
Yeah.
They might be a 7-win team. You could have taken Cade Klubnik off of Clemson's team, I think, and been able to manage that much better than Miami would have been able to manage it. So they've got to start, they being Miami, has got to start to be able to play to the level of their talent, not give up big explosive plays, not turn the ball over, not be one of the most penalized teams in college football, because all of that stuff negates how talented you are.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you remove a Cam Ward, like I said, and then you're finding ways to lose games. And that happened with Miami last year. And I think, to me, that's really, really important. The one thing I would push back on, I think they'll be fine at quarterback. I do. But one thing they're not going to have at quarterback is they are not going to have the pull the rabbit out of the hat, improvisational plays that can save a series or extend a series or maintain possession of the ball, because Carson Beck's a totally different type of player than Cam Ward was in that regard. Does that have a negative effect on the overall offense's production? I don't know. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to be very interested to see, because you're talking about more of a true air raid scheme. Like, can Carson Beck, if he has to, throw the ball from his waist? Could he pitch the ball out like that if he had to? Could he move around and have to throw something back and underneath? Like, how creative is he as a passer, as opposed to just being your typical drop back, more pro style, play action, push the ball downfield? Because I think this offense requires some of that, and nobody knows the answer to that question.
Yeah. Well, when we've seen Carson Beck create, it's been from within the pocket through the pass, or escaping up through the pocket. Very rarely would Carson Beck escape outside of the pocket. That's not really his game. And he was somewhat effective in taking off and running up the middle.
I saw him create a lot when Brock Bowers was playing tight end.
Here it is. A lot then. I just want to see who created Brock Bowers, which we all know it's our Lord and Savior. He spent a little extra time on that one.
Miami right now is slated to win 9.5 games for their win total. And the top two right now to win the conference, Clemson plus 120, and then Miami plus 350. And after that, it's a Mount Everest drop.
Yeah, well, we're about to get
to look at Miami's schedule, though?
Ooh, yeah. And we, again, this is not a predicted finish. This is just ranking the overall roster for our audience. But to your point quickly, and then we'll move on to number 3. To me, with it, I'm so interested to see how the offense for Miami works with a quarterback that has to be on time, that you said is not going to pull the rabbit out of the hat. It comes to play calling, in-game management from the coaches, which has not been a strength of Miami. The defensive side is different. I think they're going to simplify on defense. Sometimes you just got to simplify and let them react. But I think and I'm not saying that Jalen Milroe is close to Cam Ward. I'm not saying that. But I think the same methodology that will Miami be as capable with a quarterback that has to be on time, I'm looking to see if Alabama with Ty Simpson will be the same thing with a quarterback that doesn't do all the extra stuff and just makes the right play. Just make the right play and let's move on. But I'm sure they would definitely take Cam Ward. But speaking about moving on, Coney, we have Louisville at 3.
Yeah, Jeff.
And I am so excited. I don't think enough people are talking about Louisville. And whenever they talk about Louisville, the few times they do, it's Miller Moss is coming in at quarterback. I'm really excited to see him and Brom together. I think Isaac Brown is a freak show at running back, as a little guy that can absolutely take off. But I think Louisville isn't getting the love on the line of scrimmage and on the edge of the line of scrimmage that they should get, which I think could end up being what puts them in a position to maybe win the conference, Tom.
Well, and remember, that was a team last year on defense where all of the expectations were sky high along the front because of the that they had previously, and that they didn't play to that level on defense the way they anticipated. So I agree with you. I think they will get back to being that type of football team on defense. I think you can make a fair argument that the marriage between Miller Moss and Jeff Brom was one of the better transfer portal pickups in terms of fit of anybody in college football. Like I don't know if there's anybody coaching the quarterback position in college football from a within the pocket, on time, play action pass structure like Jeff Brom's coaching it, and to have the production he's had out of guys. And let's not forget, the poor guy had to stand there on the sideline 2 years ago in the Holiday Bowl and watch this guy literally boat race them.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so he saw it firsthand. I mean, that was enough of a sample size to say, hey, this guy can play for us. I like this addition. I think Louisville's going to be a good football team. Louisville, though, at the same time, needs to take the next step, right? Like, we just got done talking about Miami. I think there's a chance Louisville could be every bit as good, if not better than Miami.
Yeah.
You got to, obviously, you can't, foresee injuries or, all of those sorts of things. But I don't disagree with you guys. And I think it's interesting that you chose to put them over somebody like, say, SMU, right? For maybe reasons that we all agree once we get to the Mustangs.
Yeah.
Well, it's just going to, in my opinion, you look at SMU, Louisville, which defense is going to show up?
And I'll put my money on Louisville.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I think Louisville has...
I had to be in Schembechler Hall with Ron English for 2 years at Michigan, and that team is going to take his identity, and I'm just going to bet
one of the best linebacker rooms in the ACC.
And the most underrated coaching staff as a whole, I think, in the country. I think Louisville has an absolute grade A, top-shelf liquor coaching staff. You talk about Coach English.
I just believe in their ability to be balanced a little bit more, which, to Tom's point, if you're going to take that next step, if you're Louisville, which the next step is like winning the conference and making the college football playoff. We've seen you be really good. Yeah. The next step is doing those things. You got to be balanced if you're going to accomplish those, right?
Without a doubt. Well, this next team we have at 4, Tom knows a little bit about.
Yeah.
It's his alma mater. It's Georgia Tech. And the reason we didn't have them at 3, and we had a little bit of a heated debate, because once you get 3 and beyond in the ACC, I mean, you can make a good argument for a decent amount of teams. You bring back Haynes King, you bring back Jamal Haynes. If you're named Haynes and you're a baller, you're playing for Brent Key at Georgia Tech. But you did lose Eric Singleton Jr. I know Rutherford came in. You lost a couple pieces. You lose an edge rusher, too, that was a big part of what you did. Tom, with Georgia Tech at 4, do you think that's about right in what could be a huge encore performance? The same team that took Georgia to, 5 overtimes, 7 overtimes, or whatever it was last year. Can Georgia Tech keep building? Yeah, because I know they're going to be good on the offensive line as long as Brent Key's the head coach.
Yeah, listen, I think, and Brent Key would tell you this, the improvements that they've shown, the improvements that we have all seen, we kind of forget it actually hasn't translated into a better record. Like, I look at them and I'm going, shouldn't they be a 9-win team by now? Right? But that hasn't happened. And I'm not saying it can't happen. Now, I will say this. They've done themselves no favors with the schedule over the last 2 to 3 years. It eases up a little bit this year. And they did replace Eric Singleton with 2 incoming transfer portal guys that I think are going to be really, really good players for them. But Georgia Tech will go as far as Haynes King takes them. That's the bottom line.
Is the book out on him, Tom? Is the book out on him? Like on Haynes? Because if you look like, as a thrower, he's improved as much as anybody. But is the book out on that run game and Georgia Tech's tendencies after a full year of important tape in big moments with Georgia Tech? That's what I worry about with him and Kevin Jennings, who we're going to get into next.
Yeah, I don't think that Buster Faulkner, the offensive coordinator, will ever fall into any type of verifiable pattern.
Okay.
The one thing when you watch Georgia Tech, every single week, it's 3 guys shifting, it's motion, it's formations, it's personnel groupings. They don't have a lot of plays, but what they do is they do so many things to keep you off balance to get to the minimal number of plays that they have. And then anytime you got to defend Haynes King's legs, and he's a part of the run game on a regular basis, so you actually have to play 11 on 11 on defense, that just puts so much strain on people defensively when you have to account for that. I think that you'll see even more wrinkles from Georgia Tech this year. If anybody, and they all, do their homework and they scout and they break down tape in the offseason to try to get a beat on the opponents.
Here's something that'll blow your mind. My brother turns into a dragon on Fridays. And also, over 85% of grass-fed beef in your grocery store, it's imported from overseas, where they've got a completely different set of safety standards than we do here in America. That's why we switched, and you should switch, to Good Ranchers. Look, we're grilling almost every weekend this summer. Y'all should come over and have a bite. And I want to know exactly where the meat's coming from that I'm throwing on that grill. And at goodranchers.com, every single cut, whether it's beef, chicken, or pork, is 100% born, raised, and harvested right here in the good old US of A from local family farms. No antibiotics ever, no added hormones, no seed oils, just pure, clean American meat. And here's the best part. They deliver it straight to your door. No more wondering if you're getting quality meat at the grocery store, and no more long lines. David, what's the favorite thing you've put on the green egg from Good Ranchers?
Well, look, I love doing ribs, but we did chicken wings this past weekend with the Asian zing sauce, and half buffalo. Fantastic.
I love when you talk dirty about cooking. Right now, if you subscribe to any Good Ranchers box, you get your choice of free meat for life. We're talking free Wagyu burgers, hot dogs, bacon, or chicken wings in every single box for as long as you're subscribed. Plus, when you use our code BOOSTER, that's BOOSTER, when you go to goodranchers.com, you'll save an extra $40 off your order. Right now is the perfect time to start making your summer barbecue more high quality and more convenient. So head to goodranchers.com, use our code BOOSTER, get that $40 off and free meat for life. Good Ranchers, American meat delivered.
I think Buster Faulkner, as you just mentioned with some of Louisville's coaching staff members, maybe one of the most undervalued offensive coordinators in all of college football.
Agreed.
This is another
hell of a golf player, too.
This is another team to where the quarterback's not going to be the problem. I don't think the book's out. The problem is you gave up 5.4 yards per carry. And average giving up 220 rushing yards a game, which ranked you 128th in the nation. So, Tom, my question is, you lost some key players on that defense. Is this defense going to be any better than stopping the run the team was last year?
I would hope so. Obviously, you lose a big guy in the middle like Zeke Biggers. You lose the kid, I think Texas Tech, that was on the edge. Those are two pretty good losses. But I also think that Tech's done a good job through high school recruiting and through the transfer portal of replenishing those guys. The linebacking core is going to be really good. The secondary's got a chance to be very good. But maybe a little bit like Clemson, a little bit like Miami, maybe some new leadership there is the recipe. Right, is the answer. Because I agree with what you said earlier, Jake. Like, sometimes dumbing things down and just lining up, getting your heels in the ground and playing instead of trying to have all the answers for every scenario that can come at you is the best way to play sound defense.
Yeah. Well, I used to have a saying, I've said it a million times on the show, coaching DBs, is that if I simplified it, and to be honest with you, coaching in JUCO, it really kind of helps you simplify things if we're being honest. But if we simplified it and you got the call wrong, the calls were simple enough that everybody would still be together. Because I say, listen, if we're going to get the call wrong, everybody get the call wrong. Let's just get the wrong call as one call. Because if we're all wrong, we're all right. At least I know everybody's covered. So I'm not saying you go out there and run some Mickey Mouse stuff and you just stay in man-free, which a lot of DCs do. And I don't think a lot of people understand that in college football. They just, revert to, if they can run man, they're just going to run man-free and give you some disguises off of that. But it's going to be interesting to watch Georgia Tech play, and you bring up a great point. David, at 5.
SMU is who we have at 5 right now, Tom. What are your thoughts? Rhett Lashley and the boys made the college football playoff a year ago. There was all sorts of conversations about their schedule not being that difficult, and then, they kind of put up a disappointing performance there in the CFP. Are they going to be better or worse than last year?
So here's the challenge for SMU. And I don't think it has to do with players. I don't think it has to do with talent. I don't think it has to do with Rhett Lashley. It's all psychological because they're not sneaking up on anybody this time around, right? Nobody knew about Kevin Jennings before. Everybody knows about Kevin Jennings now. And to me, what Rhett Lashley's primary focus has to be coaching this football team is not buying into the press clippings not listening to everybody patting you on the back, telling you how good you're going to be, because it's like Nick Saban would say, it is rat poison. Because one of the hardest things to do is to get teams to play at a high level when everybody's telling them how good they are. Well, guess what's been happening to SMU's football program since the end of the last year? I mean, you've raised all this money. You have a huge NIL collective. They can get guys into school. They're attractive in the Dallas Metroplex for any bounce back transfer portal guys. Like, the stars are aligned for that thing to turn into an absolute juggernaut. Mm-hmm. But how do you maintain the edge? How do you maintain the focus and the chip on the shoulder? Because to me, they've got players to compete with, the conference top to bottom, go into any matchup and have a chance to win it. But if that team, and this is where maturity, leadership, your locker room really plays a significant role. And I think we'll know pretty early if this team was ready to make the jump, ready for the big time. I remember talking to Mac Brown, if you guys remember early on when he got there, and they ended up taking Sam Howell and they stole him from the Florida State class. And they went out and they had like that remarkable year. I think they went 9-3. It was totally unexpected. And they had the vast majority of their entire roster back. And the next year they went out and laid a huge egg, right? And I asked him about it. I said, when did you know? He goes, I knew about the middle of the summer that something wasn't right. Yeah. We were having guys miss workouts. Guys were late for study hall or late for treatment. There didn't seem to be that edge. There didn't seem to be that hunger. They had bought into arriving, right? And the moment you do that,
you're cooked.
You are going down a bad path. And I think that's the biggest thing that could hinder SMU from having another season just like the one they had last year, because they're going to be talented. So now I think the maturity more than anything else in that locker room, and how Rhett Lashley manages this team and keeps them hungry will tell the entire story of SMU in 2025.
Yeah, well, if I'm Rhett Lashley, I have the Penn State game playing on every TV in the facility and on every team TV in the dorm room. And that's where I think there's a little bit of a parallel between Arizona State and SMU coming into this year, right? Maybe not. Arizona State was a lot more of a surprise, I guess, last year than SMU, which was still a surprise. But I do wonder if not having that quarterback competition for a whole offseason will make things a little bit smoother, because remember, it was going to be Preston Stone, and then all of a sudden Kevin Jennings. And it was. And now you know who the guy is moving forward. Blaine, speaking about moving forward, our team at 6, God, they want to move forward, because last year was one of the most disastrous seasons I've ever seen a big brand like Florida State have in college football. And now Thomas Castellanos.
Tom, what are we doing? What's Castellanos doing? What is he doing? I'm sorry. If I'm a Florida State fan, I do not want to see this. This is the last thing I want to see, is a guy worrying about other people and not worrying about what we have in our locker room. And after you win 2 games last year, I don't think Mike Norvell wants to see it anyway. What do you think about the top?
Again, he said Nick Saban's not coming to save them.
Yeah, basically.
So you have this team at what, 6?
At 6.
That's pretty high.
That's so weird to say. Like, I'm over here like Louisville and SMU, and then it's like FSU. They can't be that bad again. But Castellanos is better than DJ.
And Castellanos just came out and said he already tore up the ACC once. He's going to do it again.
You went 4-8 in the ACC. What are you talking about?
So here's I've actually had either 3 or 4 of his games live. Okay, and I think you've heard me call him this before. I call him Diet Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
I've seen him at his absolute best. I've seen him at his absolute worst. My issue with Thomas Castellanos is he has not performed well or displayed the competitive temperament or mental toughness when things don't go his way. Right? And he needs to worry about playing at a consistent level of performance and not be worrying about who the opponent is. I don't care if you're talking about Alabama or you're talking about Southwest Louisiana. Who cares? You have to play to a high level. You can't be a yo-yo player, up, down, up, down. That's exactly what he's been. No matter how exciting he is, no matter how many spectacular plays he makes, the quarterback position is about accuracy and decision-making. And he's got to show that he can consistently prove he can do that at a steady and high level. Now, you guys are right. One of the most egregious, to be honest with you, completely avoidable errors in the history of our short-term transfer portal was the acquisition of DJ Uiagalelei last year.
And you were saying it last year on this show, and we were saying it last year on this show, and you thought the Florida State fans were going to the villagers were going to show up with torches and burn us at the stake.
Yeah, and the thing is there was enough of a sample size to tell you exactly what was going to happen, right? And it did. Now, it didn't help that the vast majority of their impact players off of the team the previous year had all departed at the same time. But that doesn't change how DJ plays the position. I do think Castellanos is obviously an upgrade. There's familiarity with the offense, having played with Gus Malzahn before. Gus knows him intimately. I think it's going to help that Mike Norvell can become far more engaged and involved in other areas of the football program and the football team, particularly on game day, with the confidence in allowing the offense to perform under Gus Malzahn's leadership. But they're going to be better. I think they're going to be improved. I love the incoming weapons that they've taken in the transfer portal. I think they're going to be vastly improved there. The running back position is really, really strong. Okay. And what Thomas Castellanos can do is, as you're building and developing an offensive line, he can get you out of trouble. If you have some things that aren't ideal, he can get you out of trouble. He can extend plays. That's good. That's a positive. It can help you grow, particularly early on in the season. But Florida State's going to go as the quarterback position takes them. And that's a statement that can be applied to just about everybody in college football. But he needs to start focusing on his own performance being consistent than anything else.
I just want to push back on one thing here real quick, because a year ago with DJ Uiagalelei coming into Florida State, the case that I made against him was saying that you're not going to raise the ceiling. This was a Florida State team that just went undefeated and didn't make the college football playoff over Alabama. You're not going to raise that ceiling, but at least you will provide a floor because of what we had seen at Clemson and then at Oregon State. You know what you're going to get, 2,500-yard passing, 20 touchdowns, something like that. And the floor is, I mean, like 6-6 would have shocked me. You know, you can go 7-5, 8-4, maybe 9-3 with the guy. 2-10 was a whole different thing that points beyond just the quarterback position.
Agree with that. I agree with that.
If Florida State triples their win total, Tom, they're 6-6 this season. What then for Mike Norvell?
Well, I know. And I mean, obviously he will have, I think some of the things you're touching on there are, in my opinion, byproducts of the dangers of the transfer portal, right? And the transactional nature of a roster. It's so difficult to adhere to your foundational pillars when guys are going in and out the door all the time. Like, how are you supposed to create a healthy locker room, create a healthy culture? If things don't go well, what's the player's investment in the program? Are they there for money, or are they there because they want to win a championship, right? Those are all factors that make it so difficult to consistently, year in, year out, maintain what you are as a program or what you think your pillars are, and then perform at a high level when very few of the same faces are returning each and every year. So, and I think that bit them. It wasn't just DJ. It was the departure of Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Braden Fisk, Jared Vert. I mean, I could go up and down the roster, and guess what? Every one of those guys were transfers. Yeah. Everyone.
It just feels like it's all mental with Florida State. I thought Florida State was one of the weakest teams mentally last year. One thing would go wrong, and it would snowball.
That's what you do with the scary part, if you're a Florida State fan, hearing that and then hearing what Tom just said about Castellanos, when it goes bad, he goes really bad. That's what would worry me. But Cohn's also right. It was more than a DJU problem. You know, the math problem for culture is C plus T equals C. Culture is consistency plus time. That's what gives you culture. And it's almost impossible to do that now if you're going to lean that heavy on the transfer portal. That's why I've continued to say the recipe for me in the transfer portal is 70-30. I'm 70 high school development. I'm 30% transfer portal. I'm not going to build the ship out of the transfer portal. I'm going to plug the holes in the ship with the transfer portal.
I do think bringing in Gus Malzahn and bringing Tony White on the defensive side will help prepare their guys mentally to be ready to play and to be able to adjust if something goes wrong.
And that 3-3-5 with Tony White, that's going to be something you
better have a nose
in the ACC. But at 7, we went back and forth. This was these last two that we have here, Tom, 7 or 8. 7 to me, I think, is one of the sneakiest teams in the country, because I think they have one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the country, and they tend to do well coming off a subpar year. And it's not NC State. I almost had NC State there.
Close.
It's Pitt. I think Eli Holstein is a freaking stud, man. The transfer from Bama. He's a stud. And I know they lost Sincere, right? It's really the biggest loss they had in the transfer portal. I think this Pitt team is going to come back pissed off. I think Narduzzi's going to be able to find a little bit of that magic. And don't be shocked, boys, at the end of fall camp with the ACC predictions. If Pitt is maybe a little higher.
You're high on them.
I called SMU last year. I called SMU
shut up about it.
This year's SMU.
Look, I'm not going to shut up about that forever. But Pitt, what do you think, Tom? I think they're sneaky.
Listen, I had them a bunch of times last year too, and I had them the game that the wheels truly fell off against SMU. Mm-hmm. If you go back to the week before, they played Syracuse, all right? And it started then, but Syracuse turned the ball over so much it didn't jump up and bite them. But you could see it. The offensive line was starting to become dismantled. They couldn't run the football effectively like they did the first 5 weeks of the season. All of a sudden, the walls are just collapsing on Eli Holstein. And then next thing you know, the defense is on the field all the time because the offense is 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And then literally Syracuse, it was a gut punch.
Yeah.
Excuse me. The SMU game was a gut punch.
Yeah.
And when that happened, they never recovered. And the offensive line got worse and worse and worse. I don't disagree with you with the components that they have returning. I think there is tremendous upside for them to be really, really good. All eyes are going to be up front. They've got weapons on the perimeter. The quarterback is a playmaker. Desmond Reed, obviously, really, really good player. But they've got to somehow come up with a way of maintaining some consistency up front. We know they're going to be good on defense. We know they're going to have guys. So I don't think that one's as out of left field as some people might think it is. I think if that's 7, I'm trying to assume here who I would think was vying for
Take
8
a guess.
for you guys.
Take a guess.
Yeah. Syracuse or NC State?
NC State, 8. Blaine, why don't you take NC State then?
We had a correction here, Tom. Let's bring up the graphic. I had NC State at 8.
Okay.
And Cone had NC State at 8, but Blaine can be somewhat persuasive in moments. And he talked us into having Duke at 8.
Talked us into Duke. Yeah.
Because of Mensa, because of what Manny Diaz can do defensively. Look, CJ Bailey at NC State, I thought he looked really good as a young player last year.
He's going to be a really good player.
He is. The Concepcion loss, though, going to A&M,
he didn't do anything for him last year anyway.
I just don't know if they got anybody else's dynamic. But, I mean, the people figured out, you stop Concepcion, that's it. NC State is cooked.
Should we have not been influenced by Blaine?
Should we have not?
That's what we want.
Tell us why we should not have been influenced by Blaine.
I think there's such a distinct history with NC State playing really, really good when nobody's expecting anything from them.
Yo-yo. You talk about the yo-yo.
And you got to kind of take that into account. The thing about Duke, and Duke actually has that roster of players that Manny Diaz inherited is a much better group of football players than Duke has ever had collectively at that school. They're undervalued. That wasn't a fluke. I mean, let me tell you what was a fluke. The fact that they won that many games with Malik Murphy at quarterback.
Yeah.
That tells you how good the rest of the roster was, right? And they had injuries at running back. It didn't matter. They made all kinds of plays on defense. But I would say this. Is there a player in college football that was acquired in the transfer portal that has more pressure to perform based off of what has been reported he's being paid than Darian Mensah? That dude better not flop.
If you're not dribbling a basketball at Duke and you're getting paid, if you're not dribbling a basketball at Duke and you're getting paid that type of money, you better ball, bud, because they don't throw that cheddar there a lot.
Now, I will say this. One of the reasons they moved away from Malik Murphy, because he could bring nothing in the quarterback run game or the ability to extend plays, right? And they need that in their offense. They want that in that offense. They want the quarterback to be a more dynamic player and force defenses to have to account for every nook and cranny of the field. I think Darian Mensah will do that. But you're talking about a guy who was a one-year starter at the group of 5 level for a very, very good program in Tulane, and to have that type of money popping up, like, he better come in and be wearing a cape.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and again, that's reflective of the market probably being so out of whack that nobody knows how to really justify what we should and shouldn't be paying these guys based off of production and performance, right? All of this money's being thrown around, and you're sitting there saying, like, is anybody in college football that, isn't Cam Ward or, whoever, Jalen Milroe last year or whoever, are any of these guys worth $800 to $1 million? No. Have they shown that they're worth that yet? I would venture a guess the answer is probably no for the vast majority of them.
Yeah, the market is, we're wondering if it's ever going to self-correct, but we say the same thing about the NFL, and yet the market only continues
the NFL has rules, and the information on what everybody's making is public.
Yeah.
So the market is set. You know who's the highest paid guy, who's the lowest paid guy. You know who's performed, who's underperformed, who's overperformed. So the market gets set through verifiable evidence. That's not what happens in this world we're living in.
No, it's still the wild, wild west. Well, Tom, unless you guys got
question.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I'd like to ask. Well, I mean, there's obviously I want to know about Syracuse and Virginia Tech and all these schools.
Who I think it is.
North Carolina. I don't know what to make of Bill Belichick right now, Tom. I mean, the guy has 8 Super Bowl rings, but his girlfriend's dressing up as a mermaid and he's fishing for her.
It's undefeated, dog.
I really don't know what to make of this.
Never lost a game.
What would be a good season for Bill Belichick at North Carolina? And what would be a bad season for him at North Carolina?
I think 7 wins would be a good season, and that's saying that the quarterback position, plays out and overperforms. You lose virtually your best pass rusher to the market. You lose Omarion Hampton to the NFL draft. You've got some significant rebuild pieces there, and on top of it, you're going to have so many distractions surrounding this program. See, the difference between this and Colorado the last 2 years is Colorado actively created their distractions, created the attention. Whether it was warranted or not, they were like, bring it on, right? You're talking about a coach whose entire career has been based upon eliminating distractions, right? And now that's what the entire program is. And don't kid yourself. I don't even know what crew I'm going to be on this fall, but I haven't seen the schedule of slotted games and what windows are going to be. But I can pretty much guarantee you that North Carolina is either going to be on ABC at 3:30 or ABC or ESPN primetime a lot.
Okay. Tom,
a lot.
I've said the same thing about Belichick and about how he didn't want distractions and, going about it in that kind of almost militaristic way. But when I think back on it, and maybe it's just because the Patriots were so good that they were the team that everybody talked about, but I'm starting to remember a ton of distractions with Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Deflategate, the feud with Josh McDaniels, the stuff with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, Matt Patricia being the OC and the DC. Like, I'm going back and I'm thinking, did just Bill Belichick? Because then I think about Nick Saban, where there really wasn't distractions like that. What was the biggest distraction? He slapped A.J. McCarron on the ass too hard after he threw a pick or something? Crash. Did I get fooled because Bill Belichick was just winning and told me there were no distractions besides there being all these distractions?
Hey, he's on to Cincinnati, okay?
You got fooled because the guy wearing number 12 masked all of it.
Yeah.
Period. Talk to him, Tom.
End of statement.
Yeah.
He was pretty good.
All right, quickly though, I know you got to go. Syracuse. Ricky Collins Jr. coming over from LSU. Guy's talented, but we haven't seen a lot. He's thrown like 7 combined passes. Syracuse lost as much as anybody did in important play, including losing Pena too there at the end. That's going to be tough. Fran Brown, I mean, do we have an encore performance here, or is this a building year to be able to put a roster together a couple years down the road to really go and compete for it?
Are we sure Ricky Collins is going to beat out Stephen Angeli?
Look, at this
all
point,
I know is that guy played really good football when he played for Notre
Dame.
Yeah. And listen, I think the one thing that's intriguing about Syracuse is they might have the healthiest culture of any team in the league outside of Clemson. Those kids love that guy.
Yeah.
And he is very black and white with them. He treats them like men. There are no excuses. He doesn't sugarcoat things. One of the things that I love about what he does there is especially as it relates to the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, his whole deal is, I'm not paying you money you haven't earned.
Yeah.
You want to do that, go somewhere else, and he'll replace him. Like, there's something healthy about that I think makes them very intriguing.
Yeah, I think he learned a lot from Kirby, too. And now I know the off-the-field stuff at Georgia when it comes to driving hadn't been great. But it's going to be interesting to see. It's going to be an interesting conference year. Tom, first off, great job on the UFL, man. You're fantastic as usual. Thanks. Thanks for taking some time with us. And, man, drink a adult soda or a cold beverage for me today out there. But we really, really appreciate you, man. And tell everybody if they don't know for some reason where they can find you. Not today, but just during football season.
I was today. For about 2 weeks, you can find me at the lake.
There we go.
I like that hat, Tom.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I know. I know we get, as media days start getting cranked up, right? Starts off with the Big 12 and then obviously SEC and all of that. That's when we start back up College Football Live. So I know I'll be a heavy part of that schedule in the latter part of July and obviously August leading into the season. And then we're getting ready to update our current recruiting rankings right now. Got a little update based off of the Elite 11 finals that wrapped up last week. And so I got plenty to do to keep me busy.
Definitely. Well, Tom, you're the best, man. Thanks so much. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon and enjoy it out there floating and smiling, man. We appreciate you.
You bet, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Tom Luginbill, one of the best in the business. We appreciate you guys joining us as well. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn that notification bell on. We got some more fantastic content coming your way this week and beyond. You guys are the best, and like the chances, me not being jealous.
You're due for a
at
drop.
The lake.
I'm
gonna throw this one too.
You're due for a drop.
Dropped it.
Ooh,
missed.
yeah, boy. Gone. Get out of here. Auburn, recruit better, please.